I feel like I was asleep and I woke up. Maybe that's what being born of the Spirit really is. I had this idea of who God was, and I served that God, like this God I created, this idea. That's who I served. And it's like God showed up and said, hi, nice to meet you. And I couldn't even shake his hand. I was so undone. And he's so beautiful and so perfect and so amazing.
Could I convince you that God's not real?
No.
Lana Manley was asleep in the middle of the night when she suddenly became fully awake. And in that moment, she believes God showed up in her bedroom. She wasn't dreaming, yet she describes a commanding presence and a flood of thoughts that were not her own, and an encounter with what she believes was the overwhelming holiness and perfection of God. As you listen, I want to invite you to pay attention to how this story reflects the way you see the world and what it might look like to see your life through God's eyes. There is revelation waiting for you here if you're open to it. Please meet Lana Manley. Lana Manley, a week ago I didn't know you, but you and your family and your husband have supported us for a while and apparently watch our episodes. Each Monday, you have a thing that you do that is a little bit of a family tradition that includes watching us on Mondays. And to hear a thing like that is just super humbling for me personally. And anyway, you were passing through town, and as supporters, we correspond via email. That's one of the things that kind of comes with that. And your husband said, hey, we're coming through for a holiday. Can you come grab lunch with us? And we did. My wife and I did with you two, and it was great. And in that time, you told me this thing. And I'm like, how did I not know this? And so you're heading back to Texas, and here you are. Husband's with you here, Herschel, and glad to have you. And we're gonna talk about this thing. I've been, since that day, it just struck me as you were talking about it, and I think this is going to be different. We have had more and more people reaching out to us with not just deliverance, not just healing, but these remarkable personal encounters like this, but not like this. So anyway, Lana, I am so glad that you are sitting across the table from me instead of just on the other side of that screen. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
People sit in that chair because they've experienced God. That is what this is. So you just got to tell me what happened, and I'm going to do my best to shut up. And if I have a question to get some clarification, I'll ask it. But what happened?
So I was asleep, and in the middle of the night, I really can't even tell you what time it was, because when it happened, I couldn't even move. I normally, if I have a dream or if I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll glance at the clock, but I could not move that night. And I was laying on my side, and it was like when your eyes just pop open, but they didn't pop open. And I was just wide awake. And I don't want to say it was like a force, but it was a commanding presence. And my mind just started having thoughts that were not my thoughts. And the only way I know how to explain that is when your mind rambles, or you just go on and on and on. But this was just immediate, and it was like every single, it was like realizations, I guess, and it just went down the line in every part of my life, and it just got more and more intense, and it was almost like looking at the mirror of yourself through the lens of God. And it felt like you were standing before God in judgment, but it was love. It wasn't like that idea you have of God where you think, you've just got to be this, or you just don't measure up. Let me just show you all the ways. It wasn't that. It was like, this is the exactness of the truth. And in the truth, all I could do, I just remember going, oh, like I couldn't, it was like I was disgusted with myself, and I couldn't even say I'm sorry. I couldn't even, I could not utter a word. It was just overpowering. And it was so much that I can't even tell you details of everything. There was so much. It just went on. And it was like the excellence of how perfect He is and how perfect His kingdom is, how heaven has to be. And when I say heaven, I mean the kingdom of God. And all I had was the realization of how far I was from that. And it was, I want to say I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but I wish everyone could have that, because it was a gift, but it was painful. And it was not painful in a physical way, just the holiness of how holy He is, and knowing that He was speaking to me. And I felt like I wasn't even worth His time or His breath. Like, why would He take a moment and show me anything? When you look at how far I was, and I thought I was okay. I mean, I thought I was great.
Living a life
just
close
normal,
to Him.
Just normal, we do all the things, we care for people, we give, you try to be a good mom, you try to be a good wife, you work, and you're honest, and you just do all the things. I'd gone to church pretty much my whole life, and that night was like you met God. And when that happens, He's perfect. And everything about Him is perfect. And everything about His kingdom is perfect. But at the time, at that moment, I couldn't even process that. All I could see was everything that was wrong. And I just wanted to make it right. It was like I knew so much. Things that I had just never read or never learned or never had even processed those things. And I remember at one point when I'm just cringing and I just wanted to get under the covers. And I remember even feeling nauseated and just laying over, like in a fetal position in my bed. And I remember her reaching His hand over, and He could just tell I was in distress. And a lot of times I'll have a dream, or if I'm having a dream where he can tell I'm struggling or something, He'll kind of wake me up,
Mm-hmm.
And this time, I mean, it's kind of funny because he didn't try to help me. He knew it was more than he can handle, and he just kind of put his hand on my back, and I just remember him praying, God help her, give her strength, help her right now, be with her. And I just remember thinking, oh gosh, I need strength right now because I don't know how to even just be here right now. This is just so much. And so this went on for hours. I mean, all night. And I just remember thinking, when can I wake him up? I got to wake him up. We have to talk. And I just remember, I don't know if he moved in the bed or what, and I just grabbed his leg and I'm like, we have to talk. I know everything. and he's like, I know something happened. And he's asking me questions, what happened? And I'm trying to tell him like I'm trying to tell you now, and I can't even put it into words because there just aren't any. I don't even know how to explain it. There aren't words. I don't know of a word that would describe when you read and the Bible says he's holy. That would be a word, but I don't think that we grasp what that is.
Yeah, I'm trying to, as you're describing it, and as I've heard it before, what I heard this week, it's like, and I don't know an example of this, and you may, if there were something filled with impurities that encountered something that cleans impurities, maybe acid, or I don't know what the thing could be. I kept getting a picture of like where the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean sort of meet. But when impurities are being burned off or out of metals or stuff like that, I just had sort of this vision of absolute holiness, purity, encountering basically the world here, and how the world can't, as it is, coexist in that space. And basically, it sounds to me what you're saying is you got the revelation of the magnitude to whatever degree you could process it in this experience of what that is, of just even for a church-going Christian who tries to walk in the teachings of Christ, how still that can't exist in that form in the presence of God and His holiness and His dwelling place. Is any of that close to what you're trying to describe?
It does. It really reminds me of in the scripture when he encountered Moses, and he hid in the mountain, and he had to hide. He couldn't even see him. And those things just never make sense to you. But when and I've had experiences in my life where I have felt God, and you have the tingles, and you have and I'm typically a skeptic. I think I am an emotional person, but I'm also very skeptical of things. So I always ask myself, are you sure you didn't create that? Are you sure that wasn't just, a release of something that's going on inside of you? I mean, I'm a thinker and I'm a contemplator. So I really think through things like that. And this was nothing like anything I've ever experienced or imagined, or I wouldn't have even known to even pray or ask for that. I just it felt like it was just out of nowhere, and it was like a download, like plugging into a computer and you just had a download. And it was not just I want to say it didn't feel spiritual. But although I know it was a spiritual encounter, but it at the time it did not feel spiritual.
What do you mean by that?
I was living it in real. It was happening to me, so it was tangible. So that didn't feel at the moment. That did not feel spiritual.
In other words, you don't feel like you were out, in some sort of vision or dream state or anything like that. No, this is me in my bed, and I feel this physiologically in a place that I was unaware of until this point.
Right. And the clarity of it was not an audible voice, but it was like when you think and you have a thought, but it was a dialogue that was not my dialogue. It was not my thoughts. They were original thoughts. Brilliance. Really. I mean, and it was going through my brain. And so it was something that I had never thought, things that I'd never even thought of. And I remember trying to explain it to Herschel, and then I just couldn't. And I remember feeling almost paralyzed. Like I am afraid to move off of this bed. And I need to go to the kitchen. And it's time to make coffee. But when I got out of bed, it was like when my feet hit the floor, I mean, I was conscious of the floor I was walking on, and I was conscious of the way I was walking. Kind of like when you get pulled over and you get a ticket, and, you're driving, 10 miles over the speed limit, you get pulled over, and then all of a sudden you're rattled. And then the next thing you know, you're driving 10 miles under the speed limit. And you're looking around, you're conscious of everything. And then you kind of acclimate moving forward, and then you're okay, right? And it felt like that. Like I had just got pulled over and I got arrested. And I remember walking into the kitchen, and I didn't even get all the way into the kitchen, and I just stopped. And I remember just kind of looking around. And all I could see was everything that was wrong. I was so aware of every single thing that was missing the mark. Myself, the way I'd parented, the kind of friend that I had been, the way I kept my house, the way I dressed, the way... opening just the cabinets, and I was so overwhelmed. And I remember standing there, and I just said, really, just mercy. God, please have mercy on me right now. But I just remember saying, okay, God, I need help. I don't even know what to do. I remember I had my hands like this, and I didn't even want to have my hands down. I just was looking around. What do I do right now? Where do I start? I don't know what to do. And so I walked over and I sat on the corner of the couch. I did not lean back. I sat on the edge of it, just sat there. And I'm thinking, I don't know what to do. And then we have a little Alexa box right there on the end table by the sofa. And that song, in the crushing, in the breaking, you're making new wine. And in the soil, I surrender, and I just thought, okay, just breathe. Okay, you're making new wine in me. This is you're doing something in me. And it was like the fact that the song came on, like the precision of that moment. He was right there. He had been there all night, and he was there. And I thought, okay, you're with me. So if you're with me, I'm here. I'm going with you. And I just kind of sat there for that song, and I just wept. I wasn't thinking about what had just happened. I was just kind of in that moment. And then I got my phone and I called my mom, which is what we all do, right? And I called my mom, and I'm like, Mom, and it's like when I heard her voice, I just started crying more. Mom, I need you to come over. I don't know how to explain what happened, and I'm like, I gotta clean my house. My house is out of order, and I need you here. And she's like, baby, are you okay? And I'm like, yes, Mom. And I'm trying to tell her, and it was like so much was just jumbled coming out of my mouth. I had to sound frantic, and I had to sound just fragmented in everything that I was trying to explain. And she's like, did you take some medicine last night? And no, I didn't, Mom. And but I need you to get here. I just kind of thought, Mom, I got to clean Grant's room, which is my youngest son. Mom, I've got to clean his room, and my kitchen is out of order, and this and that. And I don't know what she must have thought, because if somebody would have called me like that, I would have thought they were having a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, and getting over there and just helping them, right?
Right,
for sure.
And I think I'm at that point, I wasn't even thinking, am I having a nervous breakdown? But something was happening to me, and I just didn't. And poor Herschel, he's like, honey, are you okay? And I'm just like, he didn't know whether to leave me and go to work or stay there. He probably didn't know whether to take me to the hospital.
Yeah.
And so my mom said she would come over. And then I just remember looking at my cabinets, and I, walked over to open the cabinet door and to get a glass. And I'm looking at all my mixed matched glasses, and they're different heights, and they're all mixed up, and I just thought, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I like things nice, but up until then, it didn't matter. And I don't want to say it didn't matter. It mattered. I think we all want nicer things, but in my mind before, it was like, I want nicer things. But that day, it was different. It was the precision of how far from excellent. And not meaning that, you just have to have top of the line. It had nothing to do with it being top of the line. It had to do with the excellence of everything. I think it could have been styrofoam cups, and they weren't aligned with precision, or they weren't handled with care. And I was aware that God touches every single thing, that he cares about every detail, the corners, I don't know how to explain it other than, you would like line it up, and it mattered. It mattered if the glass had any lint on it. It mattered if it had scratches. And all I could think was, I don't have anything that's okay. Nothing is good enough.
Yeah.
Nothing is enough.
And this is really interesting, because I'm in that space with you right now, and I would say that here's how I'm hearing that, and I don't know how listeners are hearing that, and I want to make sure that somebody's not getting off track here in a real legalistic way. It sounds to me like you lived your life like all the rest of us. We try to keep things straight. We do our best and looking to live for God and all the things. And it's not that we are condemned for missing the mark. What it sounds like to me is that God gave you a moment of exposure to Him and His infinite holiness and goodness and perfection. And in comparison to Him, that light shone on things in your life. Not that you're condemned for having glasses of different sizes at all.
Right.
It's just you're suddenly aware of the standard that is God, not in your, drinkware and cookware necessarily, but in the sense that things matter. And His standard of perfection, not that He demands that our house be lint-free all the time, and He's this demanding God. It doesn't sound like He convicted you or condemned you of anything. It sounds to me, correct me if I'm wrong, like you were convicted by being exposed to the perfection to whatever degree you got of God that day. And you were just aware of how short we all are in relation to what heaven is.
Yes. Just He is perfect. And I just had no idea. When you hear that He cares about every little detail, I think we know that. I mean, you look at things on a grand scale of our solar system all the way down microscopically. He's so detailed. From the highest to the lowest, He cares so intricately about the details that we can't even see. He's precise. He
talks about numbering the hair on our head.
Yes.
You think there's like 180,000 hairs on a head. We that's how precise Scripture outlines Him.
Right, and I think sometimes we just think, well, that's just because somebody wrote that a long time ago, and those are the things they cared about. I don't think I ever really. It's like I knew God was great and I knew He was amazing, but I just had no idea how excellent.
Sounds like the difference between reading it on a piece of paper and then suddenly experiencing it.
Yes, and then the fear, and not in an afraid, but the fear of He's in my head. He is talking in my head. Oh my goodness, He knows every single thought. I can't hide anything from Him. He knows everything. Everything. He's real. And just that kind of, you can't give that away to someone. You can say it, you can explain it. And I think it's the difference of, I can explain to you, Stacy, what a rose smells like. I can explain it with, the oil in it. And, there's thousands of different roses. But if I'm trying to explain one specific rose to you, there's no way you're going to grasp what that rose smells like until you smell it. And when you smell it, I don't know if you could explain what it smells like or capture the essence or how long that scent lingers and how concentrated it is or how faint it is. Because if I hold that rose to your nose, you've picked up on that smell and you recognize it. And if I hold it and let's say the wind blows over it, you're going to smell. You're going to pick up on that scent. And no one else may know what they're smelling or pick up on it, but you've smelled it and you've inhaled it. And so you recognize it. And I feel like I don't know why I don't know what about me needed or what He saw in me that He encountered. I don't know why. But That whole encounter didn't just last that night. It lasted a week. And it's like it changed my DNA about everything.
Did he speak to you and give you direction in this experience? I mean, he spoke to Moses. Jesus spoke to Paul on the road to Damascus, gave them instructions. Was it like that, or was it different?
Well, some specific things I remember. For instance, I remember thinking, it's like when a veil is opened and you see things that you just did not know existed, or that mattered. There's an awareness, and in that awareness, it was like a prophetic veil, I guess, opened, and I could see how everything in the physical realm is a manifestation of what is going on in the spiritual realm. And so, for instance, I work really hard, and I seem to be, I get caught up and distracted. And, we both have businesses, and we just get tied up. And I have my youngest son. He's the third. And so, your first one, you're all about the first one. And and by the third time, it's like, they just have to do it, right? So he's very used to having to do things himself, and he's not as pampered and babied as the older ones. But that night in bed, he had a go-kart that we had bought him a couple of years, and the chain kept breaking on that go-kart. I couldn't get it fixed. We'd fix it, and he'd go one lap around the yard, and it would break again. So we have a shed. We have an area that you can park things under that has a roof, an awning over it. But that go-kart was just sitting out in the yard, like on the side of the shed, and just fully exposed. And that night, I was aware that, and I don't know how to explain it except to just say it, that at his age, that was his vehicle. And we all have vehicles in life, right? And so if you, metaphorically, I drive a car, and, let's just say I drive a 4-wheel drive truck, right? That's my vehicle. But my vehicle relates to my vehicle in life, like what takes me through life, my transportation. It's what carries me, right? And I was aware that night that his go-kart was exposed, and it was not covered. And it was exposed to the elements, the rain, the seat was getting mold on it, the chain, the tires are probably just rotting. They're just sitting there, not getting taken care of. And I felt the weight of not stewarding or taking care, that I had not taken care of what was carrying him and his vehicle, and that it was exposed and it wasn't covered. And I just wanted to make it right. Or that I hadn't paid attention lately to his shoes. He had shoes, he had tennis shoes, but had I really paid attention to his shoes and made sure that they really fit his foot and those things, and had I really got in the corners of his room and cleaned, and I realized that the struggles that he was going through in life, that was God's way of showing me I wasn't paying attention.
So you don't feel like God gave you a direct communication, but more or less gave you vision into things that are hidden when we meander through life the way we meander through life, but that he gave you vision from a heavenly perspective.
Yes, like in the way of how I treated people. how I treated our employees. Like, they're no longer employees in my mind. This is our team. We're a team. And I honor them. And I realized that honoring people and loving them, I realized how I'd looked at people and held grudges and had unforgiveness in my heart towards people. But I could look at them, and it's like it just bypassed I didn't see any of the negative or any of the pain. I just looked at them in love and saw the beauty of who they were. And like you saw the undamaged soul of a person when you looked at them, like what they were created to be. It was almost like I could see people through God's eyes and through love. But at the time, I didn't even realize that that's how I was seeing people. I didn't realize that I hadn't. I thought I did, but I didn't. I was, there was a lady that we had fired, and I was mad about some things, and she was working at a restaurant, and we had gone in that restaurant, and I remember walking in, and it's like it just didn't even. I was like, oh, hey, how are you? You're so beautiful. And it's like it just came out of my mouth, bubbling out of me before I even thought. And it was just this like childlike, like this little girl in me that I just loved her. And I do. And I even caught myself thinking, what is going on with me? And there was somebody that noticed it and that was sitting there and recognized, because they knew both sides of the story. And I think the girl was taken back because she's thinking, what is your problem? And all I could think, oh my goodness, you're so beautiful. I love you. I've missed you so much. And I do design work, so we do a lot of installation. We have like tile installers when we're installing a house. And I would just remember going up on job sites, and they would be working, and I just instinctually, and I would like curtsy. Like, that is bizarre. And it's like instinctually, I would just kind of drop down, and they were all looking at me like, what is going on with you? And I wanted to serve them. I wanted to serve people. And it's like I had that realization of if I just poured into people, if I just love them right where they are, and honor their gifts, honor who they are, and build them up, and not be self-serving. Because it's like, for me, I don't want to say everyone else, but for me, I always had like my own agenda. Like, I want to do these things, but my ultimate goal is to take care of us. And that's terrible, but it's the truth. And I'm ashamed to say that, but all of a sudden it was, no, it was like the key to everything was just serve people in a way that pay attention to the details and listen by watching and hearing what you haven't heard, see what you haven't been able to see about that person, and pay attention to what is going on there. And if you see it, then you're a part of the solution, and do what you see, do what you can there. And I just knew that everything in life would fall out in order from there, exactly as it should, and that it was inevitable that you're just taken care of if you serve. Does that make sense at all?
In the world, no, but I just sit here and think, I'm processing these things too, and I'm saying, what happened? And then, of course, Jesus teaches us, I came not to be served, but to serve. The Gentiles, rulers of the Gentiles lorded over them, not so with you. Washing others. I mean, he modeled that. He taught it and modeled that. And what sounds like happened to, from my perspective, and just the brief amount that I've heard this, is that God, in fact, did let you see through his eyes for a moment, so that you walk downstairs and it's like, look at the disarray in my life. Look how my son is uncovered and protected. Look at how beautiful these people are that I've treated maybe as assets rather than children of God.
Right, I've been dismissive.
And we say these things, and we all have to go and earn our way, and ultimately we've got to, feed our families, and so we got to kind of look out for ourselves to some degree. But it sounds to me like God opened your eyes to a better way, to the way, right?
And I think that you can read. You can have all of the knowledge until your eyes are just opened. I always say only God can make a blind person see, but once you see, you cannot unsee. It was like he opened my eyes to the big picture, and it touched every part of my life, even in excellence. There were, up until then, it happened for just for a window, and everything in me wants that back so bad, like to walk in that kind of clarity and that pure, that love, that gift. Because the difference, you can have love, but they're the gifts of just pure love towards people. That is a gift. And the excellence of like when Solomon walked, that wisdom is excellence, and Solomon walked in that, and that it was real. Because there were moments, I remember I had to go to the office and meet with some clients. I didn't know how I was going to function. I didn't know, I just thought it was written all over me that everybody could look at me and tell this, I can't hardly function right now. It's every moment. It's just so much at one time. My brain can't process what is going on. And I've had a few years to try to process it, and I'm still trying to unpack it. But at the time, I remember going into our storage room and at the office, and stuff was stacked up. People would run in there and just drop something and just stacked up. It was stacked to the ceiling. And I walked in there and I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to take me all day long. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And it was like in 30 minutes, I kid you not, that room was just, it was precise. And it was like, it just went like that. Like it was like, I just had, this is exactly what to do. Implemented it just like that. It was no issue. There was no hesitation. That happened over and over in different scenarios. And I thought, wow, it was like my brain tapped into this like superpower. And it felt like, almost like that movie where they took that pill, and I can't remember, was it Bradley Cooper that was in that movie? And they would take, and it tapped into a part of their brain that made them just almost like superhumans. Well, I was like that with clients. I was like that in meetings. I could just put together, like laying out a closet, how many sweaters and I knew exactly what inches immediately to just lay this. That doesn't even make sense at all. And I know me, and I don't operate like that. I have never been able to operate like that. And I did. And my my bookkeeper went up to Herschel and said, who is this girl? What's going on with her? I had a one builder I just got through a meeting, and she just looked at me and she said, did you change your diet? What are you doing? And I just kind of looked at her and I thought, no. And she said, what's going on? Because the questions that I would ask were not my questions, but they were excellent and precise, and just this excellence was flowing through me. And so many people noticed on the phone with me. I had a rep with Daltile. She was one of our reps, and so I had to have talked to her about something, and she got off the phone with me and immediately called Herschel. And she's just like, what is going on with Lana? And Herschel didn't know what to say, because we're both kind of thinking, do I need to go into, does he need to take me to the hospital? Like, what is going on? We don't even know what's going on. And she's like, what is going on with Lana? And all Herschel knew how to say was, well, this is the new Lana. She met Jesus. And I'm telling you, I feel like I was asleep and I woke up. I feel like I'd given my life to God. But when I say born again, it was like born again. Like, I guess maybe that's what being born of the Spirit really is. Maybe I had this idea of who God was, and I served that God, like this God I created, right? This idea of that's who I served, like everything that I could put together and put it in a box of make it similar or correlate it to different things that I knew to be real in my life. And it's like God showed up and said, hi, nice to meet you. And I couldn't even shake his hand. I was so undone. And he's so beautiful and so perfect and so amazing. And he touched me. And I don't want to disappoint him. And yet I do. It's impossible to be that perfect, because you want, in my mind, you see this and you want to be that, right? And so then now I understand how the law, the Old Testament, I knew, they had all these laws and you just think they're crazy laws, but they had a purpose. There was a meaning behind every part of them, because you have a fallen earth and this great, big, perfect God. And he wanted us to have the kingdom, and we gave it away. And he wants us to so bad have that. And our world is so far from that now. I think it just grieves him. And when we see it, when he even reveals it to us, we try to do it through our works. And that's what I did. I went into my kitchen. I tried to get my glasses straight. I'm getting up every morning at 5 a.m. and I'm doing a full-scale breakfast, and I'm sifting the flour and making homemade, in my mind. And those are all, it's trivial. But I needed to make sure that, the fruit was served in a fruit bowl. And, we had water from, Glacier.
As excellent as you could get.
As excellent as I could. I went and bought lint-free napkins, and I'm killing myself trying to be excellent. And trying to do all of it. And I just felt like a failure in every way. And I'm thinking about the way I've treated my nail lady who, she had cancer. And all I could think about was, is she going to be able to get me in to do my nails? That's ugly and terrible. And I cared. I hope she didn't hurt, but she's doing nails. So that's embarrassing that you're even going to put this on the show. I want to hide my face. And I realized I had not honored her. And that if I went and got my nails done, she does them out of her house, that I had not taken the time to think about she's going through treatment and she's still working She's taking care of my hands. She's taking care of my hands. And she's bending down and taking care of my feet. And that, she barely charged anything. She charged $40, which you can't go to a nail salon and get your nails done. And I paid her $40. And since that day, I remember being down on my knees in my breakfast room asking God to forgive me. Please forgive me. Please heal her. And from then on, I paid her every week, every 2 weeks. I Venmo'd her money, $100, whether she did my nails or not. And, I'm like, you need to go up on your prices. You're worth it. You're valuable. I sent her flowers. When I look in the mirror at me, that girl, and I look at that God had given me an opportunity to spend time with her every 2 weeks and to love her and to care for her and show her his beauty and to look at her through his eyes and to treat her the way that she deserved to be treated through his lens. It's humbling.
I hope that people are listening to that, not observing your life, but recognizing that in their own, and that God is opening all of our eyes to the ways we maneuver in and see the world that is not the way he's taught it, not his standard. And you're describing those, that getting your nails done is an item on your agenda among many other items that day, every 2 weeks. Then you have the same thing the next day and the next day, and it's like, hey, I've got this slot. I can't really afford for this person not to be here on time, and I've got to get it. And what you're revealing, and I think beautifully so, is how God opened your eyes to seeing her like he sees her. And wow, is that powerful. I feel that as you describe it. I didn't have this experience like you did, where in some really strange occurrence overnight that you had never had, it doesn't sound like you've had anything like this before. Maybe you have, but it doesn't sound like it. He instantly gave you this vision of, not a vision, an experience of seeing things through his eyes. And I feel it as you're describing it. I'm not saying I can't really believe Lana didn't, it's not like that. I see myself sitting in that chair. I've never gotten my nails done. Maybe my daughter will take me to one day to do that. And I can experience that. Right. I haven't done that, but everybody's got their things.
We have our agenda. We have our, we get up and we are focused on what we want, where we're going. It's like we have mapped out a road in the direction that we think is right. And there's a scripture about that, that there's a way that seemeth right to a man, but the end result is death. And I always just put that in the bracket of, well, sin will lead you down the wrong path. But what Jesus taught was follow me. And I think I was so busy making, doing everything, pushing down the road and the path that I thought was right, that I thought was the right path for me. And Jesus is like, hey, I'm over here. I'm over here and you're not following me and you're not paying attention. And I want to show you. I want to show you something. And so then, come up here with me and I want to show you that you're frustrated in your life with all these things around you. But if you will look at the big picture, I've put you here. You didn't go to this restaurant and eat there by accident. That homeless person that's sitting outside that lives on the corner right across the street may have a mental illness and he may be on drugs and he might be disgusting and he might stink and you're just trying to go in and have a nice meal. But I care about his soul. I want to heal his heart. I want to heal his soul. And maybe you can't buy him a house, or maybe you can't cook him a meal, but maybe you can look him in his eyes and you can see him. Just see him. Maybe you can pay attention because you're not paying attention. You're not paying attention to, there's nothing that's on accident. There's not an accident, right? The steps of a righteous person are ordered by God. So there's not a person that I run across. There's not a person that has a bad attitude, that is ugly, that pulls out in front of me, and I want to shoot them the finger and scream and holler, or they cut me off, or whatever. There's nothing that's on accident. My steps are ordered by God. And if God's God, he's God. And if one thing he says is true, then everything that he says is true. And I can't pick and choose. And so I pray now, God, help me to see the things that I haven't been able to see. Help me to hear what I haven't been able to hear. Help me. I want to partner with you today. And I find now that when I wake up and I pray that prayer, God, what do you want to do today? I may have a list of things, and I kid you not, somebody will walk into the store and you can just see it on them, a brokenness, or you just need to stop and take your time. And it's like when I do that, it's like God accelerates everything else and it just falls into place. Or even I'll have somebody where I couldn't fit everything in that day, somebody will cancel or reschedule. And it just works out. And that's not an accident. That is not an accident. That is divine. He is precise. I find even when I pray and I'm asking questions, it's like the songs that come on, if I'm tuned in, right? If I'm tuned in to him, he answers somehow, some way. And I feel like I'm just kind of going on, but it's like, for instance, right now we're sitting here and you can hear me and I can hear you. And we don't hear anything else in this room. But there are thousands of frequencies going through this room. If we wanted to get on that iPad right there and tap into any channel, you wanted to pick up your phone and call anybody, anywhere in the world, you could listen to any kind of music that you wanted to listen to. You could watch anything, good, bad, anything. It's in this room. Now you can't see it. It's here. And you can tap into it.
We think because we can't see it that there is nothing else. It's the materialist or atheist viewpoint also, right? It's like if you can't see it, then it's not there. That is a really rich insight. There's way more going on than what we are in tune to. This whole experience, I've just put myself in it. And it's like, what is God speaking to me as you're describing your experience? And I really want people to be there. because we're going to get to the question, why you, right? What caused it? I want this experience too. So, right, our first reaction in a lot of cases is once again selfish. I want that. Why her? And even just in this conversation, knowing that is the reaction of many, is once again exposing the impurity of our being and thought when we immediately go to, well, I want that, right? Why her? But setting that aside for now and just being in that with you, you were clearly trying to communicate what was communicated and what was revealed to you. And even in the ways that you've done it, it's like, it opens my eyes to my own life. I work really hard to live a righteous life. I know that we can consciously sin less in our lives than we do. We get faced with those decisions each day. As you were talking about the homeless person, and we just want to have a meal or whatever, we see these opportunities open up before us, and for us to be obedient to that nudge of you need to step in, you need to do something here. We think about the discomfort of our schedule being altered, right? Of us not being able to, and it's like, and we don't want to do that. And we battle with this disobedience thing. I don't know, it's just exposed now. And you were given the perspective of purpose around everything, and that there are no throwaway moments. There are no throwaway standards that you can just skip over. You got to see things through God's eyes, which is an amazing gift that I don't think can be understated or can be veered from. I think you would have to make a pretty conscious decision to say, I just choose not to follow with what God has shown me here. There's something in here that I want to just try to be able to uncover more of. I want other people watching this to be given the gift of seeing through God's eyes. You've done a great job of explaining what happened for you. And I don't know what else we can say here or you can say here to help people experience what you experienced in that moment. And maybe you say you feel like you got a download. Much of it is around the way you saw people, treated people, the way you moved in your life. Are there other areas that were affected by this awakening?
I feel like he gave me a glimpse of the kingdom. And when you think about the kingdom, and I keep speaking, I guess, in examples because I don't know how else to explain it, because I can't put it in a sentence. It was a knowing. When you get a glimpse of the kingdom, Jesus died on the cross, right? And yes, but why did he die on the cross? Because when he came out of the tomb, he came back to his disciples. And what did he talk about? He talked about the kingdom for 40 days before he's resurrected. He talked about the kingdom. That's what he taught. That's why he went to the cross. And so then if you backtrack and look in the Old Testament, you had Moses who, they're walking around in the wilderness for 40 years, which in the Bible, 40 is symbolic of a process, right? You had It rained for 40 days and 40 nights. When you had Noah's Ark, the children of Israel were there for 40 years. Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. So 40 is, it's symbolic as well of a process. So Moses is leading these people out of slavery, right? They were slaves. We were slaves, right? Jesus is leading us. We're being led to the cross to come out of slavery. There's a kingdom. There's a reason that he did all of this. There's a kingdom. And it's higher and it's greater and and his ways are higher. And if you have an understanding in the spirit, so you can read it with your eyes, you can read the word, but if you get a revelation of the kingdom in you, and I think it's available.
Yeah. Your experience, how long did it last?
A week?
This was ongoing
with
the same intensity for a week as it was initially in the bed that night?
Yes. So I got up and, I cleaned my son's room and I cleaned, and then I would think I was okay. And then it would just come on me heavy again. And it seemed like at nighttime, it was just more and more and more information. And I mean, one night I was just shaking, like my body was trembling in bed. And I thought, what is happening to me? And it was not like a convulsion or something like that. It was like right here. And it was like I don't know, felt like an earthquake coming out like right here, and my whole body would just and it would radiate from like right here and go through my whole body. And I would just think, I remember just laying there and just kind of surrendering to it. After that week, Stacy, my body vibrated.
Describe that.
Like vibrations, it inside. It was like it felt like
it's not a shaking.
No shake. It wasn't shaking. Like you could look at me and I was perfectly still, but inside, it was like in my bone, like going through me.
Really?
Yes, it was like if you imagine like a low voltage of. It was like a hum, like a just nonstop. And I thought, is this just me? And I would put my hands on Herschel and say, "Can you feel that? Can you feel that?" And I went to coffee with a friend of mine. This was a couple months afterwards because it just was constant. And I thought, well, maybe I have early onset Parkinson's or something. Really, I didn't know what was going on with me. I mean, I felt like I have been different since this experience. My body, I'm not the same. But maybe I have Parkinson's. Maybe this is so I'm Googling, what does it look like? I'm Googling everything. Did I have a nervous breakdown? Did I, what does that look like? I mean, what happened to me? I was even Googling, does this happen to people? Are there experiences? I couldn't find anything. And I went to coffee with a friend of mine, and I hadn't seen her in months, So we're sitting in the coffee shop, have coffee, and we're not sitting at a table, we're sitting at two chairs. And at the end of the conversation, she says, there were some things going on that her and her husband were making some decisions about. And she said, do you mind praying for me? Sure. Well, I didn't want to make a scene in the coffee shop. And so I just kind of leaned over and put my elbows on my knees. And I just put my hand on her knee and prayed for her. And when I got done, she said, Lana, you're vibrating. And I mean, it was kind of embarrassing. Because I didn't know what to tell people. So I didn't say anything about what had been going on. I didn't tell anybody about what had happened to me, And I just said, I know. And she said, no, Lana, you're vibrating. And I said, I know. And she said, and I still didn't tell her, what had happened. And she goes, if it was anybody else, I think you're crazy, but you. And so.
Well, vibrating is different than shaking.
Yes.
Right? Shaking,
I mean, I didn't know that could even.
Chill and whatever, but
I didn't know
think
that
of
was
like hair clippers. Zzz, and it's like you can't.
Yes.
You can't humanly.
You can't
do that.
You can't. And I didn't know
On your own.
I didn't know it could happen. It did for real. I can't fabricate that. I can't make it
How
up.
long did that last?
I would say like 3 months.
What do you think was the reason for that? I mean, you think about Moses when he would come down from the mountain. He had to veil his face because
Yes.
it glowed.
Yes.
He had been in the presence of God, so there was things about his physical presence that were not normal. Right?
It makes sense to me now. That does. And I do think that is what happened. I think my body, it was like so concentrated. Or maybe it wasn't concentrated. It just felt concentrated to me. But I think that it was, my body could not handle that. It was so much. And just, I think my body, I think it changed. Like, the charge, maybe? I don't know. When lightning strikes, it changes the charge of where it strikes. And so maybe maybe there's a scientific explanation to like the frequency of God. I don't know. I really don't have the answer. I just know I vibrated and I know it wasn't me and I wasn't sick. I don't have Parkinson's. I don't have and like I'm normal now, but I do know that sometimes when I'm in the presence of God, I can even be in my car praying or listening to a worship song or, sometimes if I'm praying for someone, or I'll feel that vibration come back over me. And
you recognize this as the presence of God.
I do. I recognize, and I feel him in different ways. I have felt him in different ways over the years, and they've all, been different. There are times that I've felt, I didn't know what it was when it was happening, but, like I remember like trying to walk and I couldn't pick my foot up off the ground. And it was like they poured concrete inside my body and my foot was too heavy to even pick up. And it was like this weight. And the only way I know how to explain that is like
in this time,
after that, just where I would recognize feeling the presence of God. During this particular week, I didn't feel that weight. I felt the shaking and then that vibration afterwards. The shaking during the process, the vibration afterwards.
How long ago did this happen?
I think it was 2022, the beginning of 2022, like in the spring.
So nearly 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Had anything like this happened before?
No, I don't know anyone that
like for you?
No.
Any kind of precedent around this? You have ever had any sort of physiological occurrence or illness or a traumatic time in life where some version of this manifested itself for you?
No. I've had some things happen in my life that
sure. I'm saying that are reminiscent of what this was.
No, I've never had even when my mom said, "Did you take medicine? Did you take a steroid or something?" I'm Googling schizophrenia and bipolar, and I'm Googling manic episodes and what do they look like and all of those things. And But nothing lined up with any of it at all. And so I just kind of was like, well, I'm not crazy. And I had clarity, right? There was fruit from what happened. I didn't go backwards, right? If you have a nervous breakdown, you kind of go backwards. You have a negative. I've never had, I don't have schizophrenia. I mean, I didn't go get tested,
Well, you're still functioning and running a business and living life or whatever. But, those are questions that I would, at some point in this thing, let's explore the possibilities of the skeptic, right? What could have caused this? Was it medication? Have you had other, times in life where you had some struggles emotionally or mentally with trauma or other things like that, where you were raised in a religious setting that would sort of tee you up to naturally desire to experience something like this? I don't know what the gamut of possibilities are for explanations other than experiencing God, but I mean, it sounds like you've already gone through all of those things.
I was raised in a church that, like, I was surrounded by things that kind of seemed more emotional and more spiritual, type atmospheres. And I grew up skeptical of those. I mean,
same. That's one of the reasons I asked the questions I probably ask in this thing.
I'm not going to say they're not real, or, God can do anything that he wants to with someone. But seems like when I was in, most of the time when I'm watching and observing, I mean, sometimes
it looks made up.
Yes.
It looks like they're making it up because they want to do it. And that's what I'm kind of asking here is like, and for the fact that you bring that up basically removes that as a possibility to explain this, right? You're like, those things may happen to me, but I will never make it up like it looks like these people are doing.
I would say that, what I grew up in that, and I was respectful, and I'm so thankful for everything, that my parents instilled to me and who I am. And I would not, honestly, I wouldn't change anything. But when I got in my early 20s, before then, I really dove into, I'm a tell me why kind of girl. Mm-hmm. I want to know why. I want to know where did you get it from? What's the history? What is the basis? Let's dig. I want to dig. So I'm a digger. I'm a researcher. I really am. And I want to know what the historical precedents, what is the context of things. And so that's what I did.
Yeah. So when you did your research on this, what did you come up with or conclude that could explain your experience?
There is no, it is outside of explanation. And so I did at one point go and ask my pastor, hey, I've been looking at this. I can't find anything. These things happened. I'm vibrating and all this stuff. Do you know? Have you ever heard of this? Have you ever? And he said, well, Lana, that's the thing about signs and wonders. They make you wonder. And at first I thought, well, that's just an evasive response.
That's right.
But it's the truth. You can't put God in a box. And when you experience, and when something like that happens, it doesn't matter what anyone says. It just bypasses. You can say whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
You can put any kind of explanation. I could sit here with the most renowned psychologist. You could just plug everything you want up to my brain and do whatever. What happened to me happened, and what came out of it was things that I did not know before, that I did not learn, I did not read. I had no understanding of. And after that, I did. And not only did I have the understanding, it's like it's perpetually in motion. So it's like, oh, well, so something will happen in life and it's like, oh, well, then this, it just grows. it keeps growing. It keeps getting, it's like it expounds upon itself, because it's like the seed that he put in me is growing more and more and more. And I find myself saying, well, I don't want, God, why did you do this to me? Like, what did you have a message for me or to give, or is this just for me? Was I just really that bad that you need to just wake me up? Like, why would this happen to me? And, because my husband's like, well, I want an experience like that. Almost like jealous. And, and I think you better be careful what you pray for. Mm-hmm. Be careful what you ask for, because it was not an easy thing to go through.
No, but we all want more of God. We want experiences. We want to encounter him. And I think part of that is, I'd like a confirmation that you're real.
Right.
Have I just been subscribing to this religious thing because that's what I've been taught?
Right.
Or have I heard some remarkable experiences or read about near-death experiences and think, my goodness, there could be more to this? How about you just let me have an experience like that? So many opponents of Christianity that ask questions, and rightfully so, about God. I think God wants us to explore, but they'll ask the question, so why doesn't he just come down and make himself manifested and known like that?
It's frustrating.
And I don't know the answer to that question. And I think the answer is because we wouldn't believe him anyway. I mean, I think that Scripture talks about that. It's like the rich man and Lazarus is like, hey, can you go tell my brothers this is actually real? And they're like, well, if they didn't believe Moses, they're not going to believe this. And I think that's a little bit of an answer around why does God not, it's like, what does he need to do to convince us that he's real? I mean, you can't look at creation and other ways we've experienced him, so we want the next most profound inbreaking of God. For you, I mean, I ask this question often, what do I have to do to convince you that God's not real?
Me?
Yeah,
to convince me?
Could I convince you that God's not real?
No.
Could I have convinced you that God's not real 7 years ago?
I think that I always, I think humans are fragile.
Yeah.
And I think really we're weak in a lot of ways. And I think if anyone had a propensity to be a non-believer, it would be my mind, because I see our weaknesses. I see, but there's something in you. There's a hunger.
Right.
There's something in you. And we all lie to ourselves. I mean, if we can't make sense of it, I understand that. I really do, because I've questioned everything, and, we're weak, and we just need something to keep society in order, to keep us in line, right? I mean, I've looked at every bit of that. I have thought those things, and then God shows up, and you can't negate. You just can't negate it when it happens. But I will say, I want him to be real, and so I prayed. And I remember specifically saying, okay, God, we are all flawed. If you're real, we're all weak. We are all flawed. And there's, how many thousands of different religions and takes, and we all have this perspective of who we think you are. And if you're the God of the universe and all, I want you to show me. I want you to introduce yourself to me.
Did you pray that prayer?
I did.
When?
I don't remember a specific moment, but probably in my car, one day. I don't remember the date, but I prayed that prayer. And I was like, I want to know you. I want to meet you. And I want you to introduce yourself to me the way you want to be introduced. Not the way my Sunday school teacher introduced you, not the way my parents introduced you, not the way my preacher introduced you, not even the way that it's going through my filter. I want to know God I want God to introduce himself to me. How does he want to be introduced? Who does he want me to know he is? And what does that look like? And I wasn't thinking, I wasn't reading anything even in when I prayed that. I just want to know the truth. Who are you?
But 4.5 years ago, I have the potential to create arguments that could possibly cause you to say, oh, okay, well, I don't believe God's real.
Right. And this is just a great way of life. And I'm glad we're disciplined, and I'm glad we're raising our kids, and we're keeping everybody in line. And so I'll go with it.
But now, what do I got to do to convince you that God's not real?
You just can't.
Why?
Because he is.
Because you experienced him.
Yes.
And that's so what we try to do here is have conversations with everyday people who have experienced God. And the question was, so why doesn't he do a thing like this for more people or for everyone so that it slam dunks the whole thing and there's no more potential debate around whether God's real or not? And I don't know that we've got that. You may have that. You may have gotten insight to that in your experience. And I don't know what that answer is, but the point of it is you were a skeptical person, just like me. I call myself a miner, M-I-N-E-R, often. I mine for the deep things. That's why I ask questions, why this is a conversation, not just a you give your testimony and amen, hallelujah, and that's it, right? I'm a miner. I got to know.
Right.
And I think people value that. You were a miner, are a miner, you're still a miner. And before, you evaluated all these things and asked to experience him. Now, you may want to know, certainly I'm sure you want to know more of him, but the debate, the argument, the conversation around whether God's real or not is over because you've experienced him.
Right. Now I want to share, but at the same time, there's an humble side of it of you want to share that love. You want to share the wisdom. You want to share the insight because and also being open to it, open to understanding. Like, I want to understand. So I think when if you're hungry for understanding, if you're hungry for those things, I didn't know how to pray it, but what is crazy is that night that everything happened, I didn't know this, but I told Herschel, I'm not crazy. I don't know how to tell you what's going on. And he said, Lana, I know this is God because about 45 minutes before you woke up and all that started happening, he said, I put my hand on you and I prayed for God to give you wisdom, knowledge, and understanding.
And this happened?
Yes.
So that was a kind of a question I have around this. People want this in their own lives, some version of this. Do you think God just decided to break in at that time, or was there some other thing? What do you think was the catalyst for this happening?
I think, looking back, I think that maybe my soul interceded for me and prayed what my words wouldn't articulate. But I think when Herschel prayed that for me, I think it released something. Maybe he invited it. I don't know because I don't think it's an accident that he prayed that and it happened. So I have to pay attention to that did happen. I didn't ask for that experience. I wouldn't have even known what to ask for. You know, I mean, yes, I want more of him. I want to feel him and everything. But the truth is that we really can't trust our emotions. You know, you have to lean not on your own understanding. And follow him and acknowledge him. So I can't even trust my emotions. I have to trust a knowing, right? And so when all those things happened, I didn't understand it. But then later when I went back and I would look to research and find out different things, it lined up with the Word of God.
How so? Can you be specific around that?
Yes. So when he says, like, when I'm looking around thinking I'm just seeing crazy things all in my yard, and I can look at my trees and I can look at things and things are out of order. The Word says that if you want to know God, look at creation. Look at everything around you, that he is in everything. So if you want to understand his ways or the order or things about him, it's in everything all around you. Well, that didn't make sense to me before. And afterwards, it was like, oh, I could see.
Your eyes were open to that.
Yes. And so that lined up with Scripture that I wouldn't have. It was like the Word of God came alive when I went back and read it. Like words that used to be just a book, and your eyes glaze over and you're like, you're trying to read. I was doing it in my works, but now it was alive. Now it was real. Now it made sense. For example, if you fast forward, I had another experience several months later. Herschel and I were on a trip, and in the middle of the night, I had a dream. And in this dream, I heard a friend's voice, and it was my best friend. And I heard her voice ask a question. And then I heard, not in my dream, I heard an audible voice. And I know it was God. And then, okay, sometimes Herschel will just lean, like I'll be sleeping and he'll just roll over and kiss me on the cheek and love you, baby, and it wakes me up. I just immediately, his voice, I just know his voice. And I just, this was audible. And he answered, okay. And after I woke up and I'm like, it was another like, oh my gosh, I just heard his audible voice. It's, it's not just in my head, audibly. When I say audible, I mean with my ear, audible. Okay. And I'm so excited. And I'm like, I want to tell Herschel, but in my mind, I'm like, God, can I tell Herschel? It's like I'm asking for permission, right? You just spoke to me. Do I have permission to tell Herschel? And then it was like in my head after that. Well, but if I had to describe that voice, it was like, this is what it sounded like. If you lower your voice to the lowest whisper. Okay, you hear how breathy that is? You can hear my breath. You hear the air. You don't hear any vibrato right here at all, right? Okay, this was the lowest whisper that you can imagine, but it was all vibrato. Impossible. It's impossible. Okay, now when I go and I read that scripture, that it says his voice is the sound of many waters. Okay, well, that just sounds like a bunch of poetic, How does your voice sound like many waters? Well, think about water and think about it rushing. The roar of a rushing water, right? Of many waters. That's a powerful force of water. Okay. It made sense to me after that. And I thought, what a beautiful way to explain something. It is poetic, but what a beautiful way to capture. I think that whoever wrote that heard the audible voice of God, because it's impossible to duplicate. It's impossible humanly to do that. But I heard it and never heard it since, never heard it before.
What did it say?
He said, in about a week. Now, and that right there is the question in my dream my best friend asked. She said, I just want to go home. And I heard audibly, in about a week. And so that's profound. And I'll tell you why it's profound. Because think about this, because I'm like, God, I know that was you. That's audible. But that doesn't sound like something you would say, because you're precise, right? There's no about to you, right? And I kept asking, what does that mean? Like, God does not waste words. He's a steward, like a wise steward of everything. And he duplicates, and everything is multiplied. So what in the world could that mean in about a week? And so I kept asking, I don't understand. Why would you say that? And that just doesn't sound like something you would say. Not the way that I understand you. And then if you go back and look at creation is a week. It's 7 days, which is a week. And so I guess I'm just going to go here. So God was giving me a revelation that is still revealing itself of the process of humanity and our processes. And our processes line up with each day of creation. And you have about a week of creation. In the beginning, there was darkness, right? And the Spirit of God hovered above the waters. And then you had where he separated light from dark. So think about, there are things in your life that have no form, that you don't understand. You can't put a name on it, right? There's nothingness there. And there's no depth. You can't even call it light or dark. You're just not sure what it was. And on day one, he separates light from dark. So he brings a little bit of clarity. You can't see it, right? You don't have the animal yet. You don't have the birds, and you don't have any of that, but you can kind of have a little separation of light and dark. And then day two, and so it's a process of things that we go through. And each of our processes, so your day one could last a year, right? You might be stuck, and you could have several different processes that are going on in your life, but day one on a certain situation might last a week. It might last, for me, it was a week of encounter that created quite a bit. But go throughout creation. Then back up from day one, where it said his Spirit hovered above the waters. Well, I mean, have you ever really contemplated that?
I've tried.
Like, what in the world does that mean? Like, your spirit hovered above the waters. Why? And so I told you I'm a researcher. I feel like I'm just going off here, but this is why he said in about a week to me, because there was something he's trying to reveal to me, and he wanted me to dig. So I did, and it's like he'll leave you a little breadcrumb, right? Something will stand out, and you're like, you go dig into it, and you're like, oh, and just kind of put it away, just tuck it, write it down, research it, and then eventually it comes together. I really feel like it'll be a book. I've started writing it, so I'll tell you this part that I did research because I think it's quite interesting. So a long time ago, I was in a training class on water. Well, I was actually a real estate class, and it was called Bold. And they did she played a video just to kind of inspire everybody. And there was a Japanese scientist, Dr. Emoto, and he did a study on water. And he took water and put it in different petri dishes, all from the same source, and he froze it and wrote different words on each dish. And some love, some hate, anger, you know, all different words. And so then froze them. And then afterwards looked at them underneath the microscope and documented the images of what they were. And the ones that, so interesting. So the ones that were love were just, I mean, like, think about a snowflake, right? They're all individual and beautiful. And then you had some that were like, if it was hate, it was like, it looked like hate. It was just distorted and just, you know, just damaged. And so he progressed this study, and he did it several different ways. He did it where he played music in the room. He did it where he would, you know, play a TV or, you know, all different types of media sources and look at what it did to water. And in each scenario, water formed when it was frozen. It took on whatever word was being placed upon it. And so then when we watch this video, what she was saying is our bodies are, you know, 70, 80% water, the earth the same way. And if our bodies are this percent of water, then what effect do words have on our bodies? Not just the words that we speak, but the words that are spoken around us, the frequencies that are around us, the sounds that are around us. And I thought, okay, so then I get out of the class because I go dig, and I'm like, well, does that line up with the Word of God? And I went back, and in the beginning, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. Okay? So, and then you have in Genesis where it says, and the Spirit and the Spirit of God hovered above the waters. Well, if you take out the Spirit of God, that part of the sentence, and you take where it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and I put Word in that sentence where it says Spirit of God, because it is equal, it's congruent, then in the beginning, the Word of God hovered above the waters. So think about that. The Word, if Word changes molecular structure of something, then before anything was, before he created anything, before creation, before day one, he changed everything from the very beginning, from the very before the foundations of the earth. And that lines up with Scripture. Before we ever were, his Word was over us and part of us and part of our being, and our bodies line up to that Word. I mean, it lines up. And so I feel like that night that I was laying in bed and I heard his voice say that, if it was important enough that I could hear his audible voice, then he was trying to show me something, and he was trying to take me deeper and to study creation and to and he wanted to reveal to me something in creation about who he is and us and the authority that we have, the purpose of creation, and try to break it down and put it on a level that we can all understand and relate to, and that it relates scientifically. It like there's an understanding and a wisdom there that bypasses and goes way further than what we have been able to see thus far.
For sure. Now, is this the kind of download or revelation that you began to experience since you had the encounter? Or is this just Lana being Lana and getting down a rabbit hole of trying to dig and understand things that you've been.
I feel like it all is the same. Like it all fits together.
Right, but I mean, were you doing this kind of stuff before you had this encounter?
I think I've
4 years ago.
I think I've always been a researcher. I've always looked into things because I want to understand.
Yeah, I do too.
You know, I don't want to just take things.
I'm trying to get to the heart of the experience, right?
Okay.
And what God did during that time in you that has been transformative. It sounds like this may be, this is things that you've discovered in your own sort of explanation. You talk about hearing the audible voice of God, and you said in about a week, which led you into this place of discovering that there is a cycle of process that goes on for all kinds of things in life, right? Is that what you're essentially saying?
Right.
And I just didn't know. It was like, okay, that eyes were open up to that when I had my experience.
That happened about a month after that experience. So I was vibrating for 3 months. I don't know if it was part of, maybe a different portion of it. The concentrated portion of that encounter was 1 week.
Did you feel like you received any spiritual gifts in the experience? So a gift of healing, a gift of seeing in the spirit, a prophetic gift, anything like that?
I do. I did not know. I've always felt like I had a gift of discernment where but sometimes I questioned that of, well, maybe I'm just highly intuitive, right? I'm just, so I wasn't sure if before, is that a gift or is that just my personality, right? Because I felt like I pretty good read on people's character and read on things, and I would pick up on things, and after that encounter, like I'd never read anything about prophetic, or understood, or no one ever taught me anything. I had zero I did not really know it existed. I just thought, well, people have gifts, right? And some people just have a gift of prophecy or operate in that. And I don't know how it works, but they do, right? I can't explain it. But when that happened, I was able to see.
Like in a prophetic way?
Yes. Like I was able, it was like I could look at people, when I worked with people, and when I went to the office that week, I could see things about them.
Has it remained, or did
it? Yes. And sometimes for me, it's stronger sometimes, and sometimes it's, it's like I'm just me. I'm just kind of walking around. It's like almost like glasses that you just
that you can put on and take off.
Yeah, and it comes on me. It just happens. And so if I'm just walking around, it's not necessarily like I'm just looking at everybody and I know everything about everybody.
Yeah.
But it's like when it comes on me, and when I say it comes on me, it's like all of a sudden you just see, and you can look at somebody and you see, and you pay attention. And and then I don't just see, it's like I just know.
Can you give me an example of something that happened recently that would be an example of this? Just to get a little bit more of a grasp on what it's like.
Like knowing something about someone?
Yeah, it's something recently. I mean, you don't have to name names or anything like that, but like, I was in, Publix the other day, and someone I knew, and I mean, just any anecdotal thing.
I'm trying to think of, it happens, like it kind of just happens a lot. I'm trying to think of a specific example. We're prayer partners at church, and so people come up for prayer, and when they come up for prayer, it's like most of the time they'll ask for prayer about something, and Herschel will usually pray for them first, and then I will pray for them. And it's like while I'm praying, we prayed for a couple that's going there's some stuff going on in their life. And while he was there, I felt this weight and like this deep, it's like I could feel what he felt. Like it's like I was feeling what he felt. And I felt like I just felt this hopelessness come over me, and dark. And so when we prayed for them, there were I just knew certain things. I just knew. I don't know how to explain it. I just knew. And I didn't ask or feel. It's like it was just in my brain. I just knew it. That's the only way I know how to explain it.
I've heard it many times. I know that there are plenty of people that are in deliverance ministry that will have someone with them in those deliverance sessions that have that gift, and it creates great insights going through the process.
It does. And like, even if someone's having a breakthrough or they have I've prayed for people where, they haven't ever felt the presence of God, and I will feel him coming on me. Like I will feel the presence. And I just know that that's how they're experiencing him in that moment. And so in praying for them, I can say, do you feel that feeling in, on your shoulder, or do you feel it in your, like, do you feel that? And it's like, I can describe exactly where it's happening in their body because it's happening to me and so earlier when you were talking about how blessed you are and what a gift it is to get a front row seat, to see God encounter people, I feel like I get that when God gives you insight, or when you feel something, or even, you run into people. I've been at the shoe store buying shoes, and, there was a young lady one time, and, she had, her name was Raven, and I was buying my daughter some shoes, and I just knew that she was trying to get pregnant. I knew that she was having problems. I knew that she was in a bad situation. She had a health problem that it was a life-threatening situation, and I was in front of people, and so you don't want to make a scene. It's like sometimes God, you'll know things about people, and you're just supposed to pray for them. And sometimes you're like, okay, well, what do I do with it? God, how do I partner with you? And what do you want me to do with this? And that day I just, looked at her and, and told her, hey, I feel like this is going on in your life. And she just started bawling, crying. And to this day, I could walk in there and she knows who I am, and I remember her name. And so things like that. And I didn't invite her to church. There was nothing like anything like that, but God touched her right where she was, right in the shoe store. Yeah,
I think others probably have. I bring that up because, I think others may have had similar experiences to that, and they don't really know how to wrap that up and to sort of articulate or figure out what that is. But if, as you describe that, they may be recognizing that as something that they've experienced too, and may very well be that God has given you a prophetic gift, and a prophetic gift is always given to build others up and sometimes to awaken them. And so no, that's really interesting. A question that it's come up in my mind a couple of times. Most of us who desire to walk closely with God, know Him as well as we can, that haven't necessarily had a marked experience like what you're describing. I can describe what it feels like for me when I believe God's speaking to me. There have been moments when I've had a physiological occurrence, very rare on that for me. For me, it's about Him speaking to me in my spirit. And so you say, okay, is that really happening? Or are you just kind of talking to yourself and saying what you want to say? And how do you know that's God? And not the enemy or just your own voice. And I could probably color in the reasons why I know it's God's voice. Given your experience, would you say, yes, God does speak to people and me like that? Or would you tend to lean more to the side of saying, that ain't God speaking to you, right? When God speaks to you, your life is going to,
right.
It's going to be a Paul on the road to Damascus type. Not that he has to yell at you like that and make and blind you or anything like that, but when God speaks truly to you, you are marked and changed. It's not just a little subtle thing that you can choose to ignore and move on from it. What's your perspective of God speaking to us?
I think it's both. I think that in my experience, there have been the profound, and there have also been where it's like he's leading me and I didn't, most of the time you got to hit me on top of the head for me to recognize, something. So growing up, I had dreams. I just thought I was a dreamer. I just thought I dreamed, right? I dream in color. I have scenes in my dreams, it's like a movie. And sometimes I'll have, 3 or 4 dreams in one night. And growing up, I thought I just dreamt. But then there were times I would dream about someone having a baby, or I would see certain things and then it would happen. So that got my attention, right? Oh, maybe I need to pay attention to this. And then, or I would hear a song, or I would ask a question in my mind and not have the answer. And then it seemed like, maybe seemed like it always comes in threes. I don't know why. For me, maybe that's how long it takes for me to wake up. But it seemed like that there would be things that would happen. And it's like, that's interesting. I just asked that question, or I just was I just read this morning, and then now we're talking about this, or this person comes in and they're describing this or talking to this. So then I recognize, okay, this is God, because this is not accidental. This is happening multiple times. And then as far as giftings, I didn't have anybody, I never was around anyone that taught me anything about any kind of, I knew gifts existed, but I didn't know. So after that encounter, I had things that happened and I didn't know how to identify. For instance, discernment. I think I thought it was just, a perception, but there is a gift of discernment. And a great example would be, I did not know that sometimes discernment looks like you're in a room and all of a sudden you feel really irritated and you have no reason to be irritated, right? Or you feel anger and you don't know why. And I learned one day, I was sitting in church. Okay. And I'm not a drinker, but I'm sitting in church it was Sunday morning. So it's early, right? And anybody that knows me, I could care less about having a drink. I was craving a margarita so bad in Sunday school. I wanted a margarita. That's all it was like I was salivating. It was like, this is not me. First of all, I like coffee in the morning. And the last thing I want is a margarita in Sunday. Okay. And all I could think, I could not even concentrate on what he was preaching. And, I'm going to be very careful here in case anybody I know watches this. The girl sitting next to me was an alcoholic. She was sitting right to my left. And I did not know that at the time. And I thought, I feel like I was picking up.
Yeah, sure.
On but I didn't know how to identify it.
It's like a word of knowledge, right?
Right. And there were several instances, and I just thought, well, my gosh, maybe I have multiple personalities, because I would be in a setting and I would feel things or have desires or even see things I don't have a problem with pornography at all. I don't have an I mean, I just don't, I don't hardly eat chocolate. I don't know. And it's like, I would be in a room and it's like these flashes of things are like popping in my brain. And I'm like, where is this coming from?
Well, you're realizing now that it's a prophetic gift and there's someone nearby that there's a...
And I didn't
pray
know.
For them. Yeah.
I had no idea. And no one ever explained that to me or helped me understand that. But after that encounter, I just knew things.
And it happened after the encounter.
Yeah, I could just look at people, and meet them, and I knew things about their past. I knew things about them. I could feel things about them. And
the purpose of that?
It wasn't necessarily to expose. It wasn't to expose. I think God was giving me a glimpse of, I feel like the gift is so you can show his love, right? So now when I see things in people, it's like, okay, well, it's almost kind of like you're like in specialized intelligence. You have this knowledge, and it's not to go read the book in public, but this is this person. And I want you to love them. Knowing this, how can you love them? Now you have information, and I want you to speak life over them because your words have power.
Yeah, and pray into that, right?
Exactly.
I would
right.
think.
And that was really heightened.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I wondered, you talk about the vibration in your hands. I didn't know, could a gift of healing have come from that? I know that we've had people on here that were awakened to the gift of healing after feeling a vibration in their hands or tingling maybe it was a tingling in their fingers.
I've heard that. Now I have felt heat, like go through my body.
I have too, yeah.
And I hear that, and but it's never happened, and I don't know why. That's something that I just think, well, man, you said to heal that, you said to heal the sick, raise the dead. That's what your word says.
Yeah.
And I can't heal, I've never healed anybody. I've never raised anybody, why? I don't understand. That hasn't happened for me.
So mostly a prophetic gift right now. What should people watching this try to digest for themselves from your experience?
That there's a great big God, and he's so perfect, and he's so beautiful, and he just wants to know you, but he is excellent, and he will reveal himself to you, and he can speak every language. Every language, meaning not just English or Spanish or Italian or French, verbal languages. He speaks every language, and he knows right where you are, and he knows how to encounter you, and he knows how to speak to you in a language that you will understand. And if you want and will invite him, he will encounter you. And don't put a box on what that may look like or have an expectation. Ask him to reveal himself to you in a way that you will understand, and in a way that he wants you to know him. How does he want you to know him? And he will answer. He is bound by his word, and his word says to ask, and you will receive.
Yeah, that's the next question. What do you say to James, who writes in and says, "Hey, man, I've been praying for an encounter with God for 50 years, and nothing." What do you say to him? Is it keep praying? Is it drop your expectations and let him come as he will? Has he already experienced him and he just didn't recognize it? What do you say to somebody like that?
That's a really hard question. He does not operate on our timing, and he is not bound by our time. And he will show up how he shows up when he, and I think sometimes we get tunnel vision because we're looking for the God that we've created in our mind. We're looking for this idea of what we think he is supposed to be and who he is. And yet we have no definition of who he really is because we have not our minds are so just honestly small to understand a great big God. So just have faith in the waiting. And in my experiences, it's always been when I just least expected it. It's always been something that just came in a moment that I wasn't looking for it. I just was.
It doesn't sound like you were looking for it that night.
No. And I just think that that's how he operates. You know, the word says that he showed up, right at the, sometimes he's not in the loud thunder, right? We're looking for this big, huge, right? Week-long encounter. But sometimes he's just in the wind, and sometimes it's the smallest thing, right? And I would just encourage people to pay attention when you notice something or you have a experience with someone or you have a conversation with them. If there was something that caught your attention pay attention to it. There's a reason that you're alerting to it. There's something in you alerting to it. And but like with my encounter, man, that just, I wish I could give that away. I wish I could hand it to every single person and them experience that, you know, and really I get it all the time because my husband is like, I don't understand why you have this, and you know, I just read the word, or I just this, and you know,
yeah,
I can't make it happen.
I don't understand either, and maybe it's not so much for us to understand, but he has given you this thing, and in that, what is it that people need to know? You were given this. The veil was lifted. Your eyes were opened. You were given the opportunity to. God said, Lana, come here. I'm going to give you the chance to see through my eyes. From that, what do people need to know?
That he is not intimidated by your ugliest ugly. And he can go into, it doesn't matter how high you are, how deep you are in addiction, how ugly your sin may be, or how hopeless your situation is, how full of anger, how entitled you may feel that it's impossible to let go. He is not intimidated by your anger, how mad you could be at him, how it does not intimidate him. He will go into it. He will go all the way into it just to hold you and just to be with you because he loves you. And when he looks at us, that's what he sees. He just loves us in our ugliest self. And he wants so bad to show you what it could be like. Like he, not to judge you or not to hurt you or harm you or tell you how wrong and how far you're missing the mark. He wants you to experience the kingdom and the goodness and who he is and not in a judging, mean, he just loves us. Right, like he loves us. And I think we don't even know what love. We think we have an idea, but love that just passes everything. And he's not afraid, he's not afraid of how angry. Like, I've been angry with him. I've been through things in life where I was mad. I just wanted to do things my way because I did it his way and it just didn't seem to work out. And I'm going to show, I was so full of anger and I just didn't even know how full of anger and mad and disappointed that my life turned out. And I went through things, and there's supposed to be a God that loves me. And how did this happen on your watch? And I just told him, it just came out of my mouth one day. I said it. And when I did, I covered my mouth. I thought, right? But it came out. And I think it coming out and me saying it released him to do something about it. And he didn't hate me because I was angry at him or that I was disappointed. He loved me. He wanted to heal me and touch those broken places and show me his kingdom. And when I say kingdom, he wanted to give me wisdom and things, because life, and there is beauty in everything around us. And he sees the beauty in us. He sees so far past. He sees that soul. He sees that part of us that is so innocent and so that has never been broken. He sees past all the layers into it. And that's what I got to get a glimpse of, that he encountered me.
Well, I can't imagine how difficult it has to be to attempt to articulate seeing through the eyes of the Father and reveal the heart of God that you got to experience within the confines of human language. And I've enjoyed listening to you try to put heavenly things into earthly language.
They're just terrible at articulating it.
No, I think you have done a great job. It's when I've talked to people who've had near-death experiences or other things like that, and they try to, they're like, Stacy, it's like you're trying to cram 8-dimensional things into 3-dimensional language, and it just doesn't, the words don't do it justice. That is way more real than this. I've heard so many of those things, and every time I hear that, I feel like I get a little clearer vision, as murky as it still must be, into the heart of God and the kingdom of heaven. And really what I wanted to do today, and I think you did a great job of it, was give you an opportunity to describe that experience the best way you could, so that we could just sit down and listen to heaven, right? Listen to the heart of God, that we don't get it. I know we don't get it. I know I don't get it. But anytime I get the slightest glimpse of the heart of God, the way he sees things, what he has for us, his love for us, it's overwhelming. And I think he has that for all of us. And so what would we say? I haven't had an experience like yours. Yeah, I'd like to have that. I've had my own. And I would say the story's not over. Don't be one of those people, I tried it once, didn't work, must not be a God, so I'm out. It's like, continue to pursue him. Just pursue him. He will reveal himself to you. Ask him to. He wants to reveal himself to you. And it may not look like yours, but I don't know. I read the things you wrote. We've talked before, and I just have enjoyed. I didn't sit here trying to think of the next question for you. I just sat here and tried to get into that experience with you. And I sure hope that's what most of our viewers and listeners have done in this conversation, because there are heavenly kingdom insights filling what was talked of today. And it's just priceless. What an experience. What a gift that you were able to come and share it. And yeah, the kingdom of heaven has come near. Lana Manley, thanks for coming. Thanks for sharing, opening up into even some places I don't think you expected to open up into. And I know that God is building his kingdom through your experience. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do. It's truly a gift. You've helped us tremendously in our life. There are times that I see things in other people, and it helps. I learn, and you truly do have a gift of asking the questions and pulling things out and articulating even what we don't know how to articulate. And so thank you for surrendering to that. It's genuinely a gift.
It warms my heart. What a wonderful episode. Thank you, Lana.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on A Stronger Faith. We have conversations with everyday people who have experienced God. If you feel like you've experienced God, whether it be an encounter like Lana, a healing, deliverance, your own awakening, or any other way God's chosen to break into your life, we'd love to know about it. Just visit astrongerfaith.org/contact and follow the instructions for the form that says guest recommendations. It's how we get nearly every one of our guests. You might be our next one. We have other resources on our website, such as a listing of prayer partners who will pray with you for a range of things. We also have a library of faith-building books that have been discussed on this podcast, all of which I have personally read and that have been instrumental in my own faith development. All of this is found at astrongerfaith.org, so check it out if you haven't already. And of course, if you feel like God's prompting you to support this ministry by joining our community of donors, you can find some convenient giving options at astrongerfaith.org/give. Until next time, we pray that you encounter God in new ways and that he builds a stronger faith in you and in those you love.